All right, so today's market update. I'm going to talk about my latest pick. Um, latest pick. Someone had mentioned it in the room. I forget who it was yesterday, but I'll give you credit. This is a great thing about having a community and people ask questions and so on and so forth. Makes me look at different various coins. There's basically so many different coin projects and token projects out there, and there's new ICOs every week. And personally, like my rule of thumb lately has just been like I've kind of been picky with participating in ICOs per se because I feel like it's kind of like a bubble rat race, and I just kind of hate running in with the rat race, trying to race people and congest the Ethereum network and this and that. So, whatever. Usually I'll get my token secondhand, cheap on the exchange. It might be slightly higher than ICO price sometimes. Sometimes it goes lower, right? You wait and see. But oftentimes I'll look at market capitalization, I'll look at the project, and if it looks interesting enough, then I'll get some, right? And I don't go too heavy on any one project to manage risk, right? So I'm definitely like well diversified in several projects, and essentially this one's like quantum resistance ledger, right? It's kind of interesting. So it's an Ethereum based token, and their goal, bunch of PhD guys, and their goal is to use cryptographic algorithms that are quantum resistant. Essentially, what it is, and that might maybe their work and their research might save Bitcoin and Ethereum one day and other blockchains when we get quantum computing. That especially if quantum computing ends up breaking SHA-256 or things like that, right? So I don't invest a ton of my portfolio into each pick. I probably invest about like 1%, right? So, and the reason why I do that is because if I end up picking a couple of duds, then it's not going to break the bank, right? I mean, nothing, even if I went heavy into this, even if I went super, super heavy into it, probably wouldn't break the bank because, it's all profit at this point. What I do, my rule of thumb is anytime I lock in profit on a particular market, what I will do is I'll take some of that. Sometimes I'll take all of the profit, and then other times I'll just take a fraction of the profit and sprinkle it in. This time I just put in a fraction of the profit, like 20% of the profit, recent profit of ICN, predominantly because I missed the first wave. I didn't get in at the most optimal position, right? So this is ICN, and I think it's still bullish. I'm still holding half of what I had yesterday, right? So I guess you could say I've been selling off in chunks. Initially I sold half on a double to take out all my risk capital, and the market immediately kind of dropped back. So that I could have bought in more, but I just kept the rest. And now that I'm up over 10x per se on this, then I've just 10x dollar wise anyways, I decided that I needed to take a little bit of a profit off of the table, right? All right, so far it's still holding up this trend line. So it's not like I took profit because I felt like this was going to crash or anything like that. I mean, it could. I sold into strength. Maybe the trend line does break. That's possible. But I'm still going to hold even if it does. I mean, no biggie. When you buy it at 36 cents and you see it up above $5, I just kind of ask myself, yeah, I could just ride it all, but I like selling into strength. I like taking profit along the way. And sometimes, if this went up to like $50, then yeah, I might be a little bit salty at having sold at a little over 5 on half my bags, but that's why I'm still riding some, right? In case something really ridiculous happens. And I'll just kind of keep on chopping it in half every time I take profit, just kind of selling in half so that it's the gift that keeps on giving. What do I mean by selling it to strength? Basically selling into a market before a trend line breaks, right? Like, so there's a couple of ways to trade, right? You could just wait for confirmation and lock in profit and wait for a trend line to break down and then sell. You might not get the most optimal price, but you have confirmation that the market is moving in the other direction, that the trend's not continuing. But because I didn't go all out, and I made ridiculous gains, and I've just been very patient with this. When I look at the daily, right, lots of green, and their platform's going to be released on August 1st, so I wouldn't be surprised if this bull trend continued. That said, if I didn't have any ICN, I wouldn't be buying any, right? So just because I suspect that the trend can continue to go higher over the next month doesn't mean that I think it's a good buy. And that might sound strange, just for my own personal rules, right? Everybody has to decide what kind of trader they want to be and what kind of rules that they like to play by, right? My own personal flavor is I personally just like buying really, really cheap and just waiting and holding until something big happens. And then I like selling into strength along the way and taking profit, right? Usually if a market has gone up and pushed up a bunch, if I don't have any, I'll probably just let it go. And I mean, sometimes I've missed out on really, really big moves because of that. And other times I've missed out on buying tops because of that. Now that's different. If we're talking about a liquid market, right? Like if we're talking like a Bitcoin or something that's a very highly liquid market, then I might do something like buying higher, or a breakout trade, or a dip buy, or my preference would be a dip buy for a bounce buy or whatever. But everyone has their own particular niche and style and how they feel comfortable with. We teach a multitude of different strategies in our course, and you might find that you're actually better at one particular strategy than another. Like there might be one particular strategy that's more suited to your psychological disposition, or something that you just have more experience with, or more success with, that you're more comfortable with, right? So it's not to say that I would frown upon it. It's just my own personal taste is I personally wouldn't do it. So when I bought it, I sent out a trade alert. Basically, where was the trade alert here? Let me just try to. I think it was right here. So there wasn't a whole lot of much happening with this market when I sent the trade alert out. It was like right there, right? What I saw at the time, and let's just zoom out. What it wasn't super liquid, anything like that. Let me just see if I can. There you go. Okay, so at the time, I'd seen a lot of support. I saw it was kind of, still a newish market, still didn't have a tech release. So I also like to mix fundamentals with technical analysis. The technical analysis really helps me with my entries and exits. And the fundamentals kind of gives me a foundation on whether or not I'm buying garbage or not, right? So what kind of fundamentals do I look for? Well, obviously you could see that a lot of the mid cap picks that I've chosen over the past several months, or for a while now or whatever, so for the past 6 months or however long it's been, different, we've been cycling through various different mid caps. And I like new projects that have future tech releases, right? That have competent teams, interesting project that seems somewhat unique, even if it's a little bit hyped, but has has new upcoming tech releases are still new. And the reason for that is because with new tech releases comes hype, right? These markets, there's a lot of emotional money in these markets. And they don't want to buy it when it's over here and cheap, right? They want to wait till it's like 5 minutes to midnight, right? And they're like, oh, they've got a tech release a month away when everybody wants it. And then it starts going up like 500, 1,000% or whatever. That's when like the majority of the markets want in on these projects, right? And that's where you'll start to see, record breaking volume, when you'll start to see like really, really big moves and stuff like that. And so for me, this is just like kind of like a patience game. But I kind of consider this like trading on cruise control, right? I buy some cheap token that's like looks new and innovative. And, if it's an Ethereum based token, I can just stash those bad boys on my Trezor. And then I just sit back and do nothing, really. It's honestly really one of the easiest forms of swing trading you can do. You just do nothing. It's like, oh, it went up, it went down. It's like, oh, whatever, like show me something that's going to be interesting, right? Now, this was before we knew we were in like full on bubble mode, right? So we did pop off from this breakout, and I did sell half on a double here just to pull out all my risk capital. I took that risk capital. I probably invested in something else. I can't even remember what I invested in, but every time I lock in profit, I always cycle it in through something else that's cheap. I just try to keep this circular flow of selling expensive coins and buying cheap coins, and expensive coins and buying cheap coins. I just do that. And, so far, especially in this bull market cycle, has been very profitable. Maybe after the bear trend, or, when we're in accumulation for all the markets, when everything is flat and dead, maybe that strategy might not be as hot. But, in the current markets that we're in, the current market cycle, the strategy has been working really, really well. And, just to give you an example, I mean, I went dumpster diving for a bunch of mid caps, a few months ago, right? Probably I sent out a report a few months ago, looking for a bunch of different mid caps. And, a lot of those have actually gone up over 100% Bitcoin wise. Dollar wise, it's probably even bigger than that. We're probably talking like, even like 400% dollar wise, because the high price of Bitcoin. And even let me just show you something else. I mean, just last month, let me show you some other picks, right? So scenario, right? So I asked myself, I was like, man, all these markets on Poloniex, they're pumping so hard. And I asked myself, I looked at the charts and I looked at the markets. I said, what altcoin markets are there on Poloniex that haven't made ridiculous moves to the upside, right? Because it kind of just pains me. It makes me shudder at the thought of having to buy someone else's bags at like a 10,000% premium or 1,000% premium or whatever. I mean, I might take specific trades, breakout trades with measured moves, but I'm generally like for something that's up really, really high if it's moving. But I generally treat that like hot potato, right? Because, once something's up a bunch, it could, the bubble can pop and it could easily flip the switch, right? So for me, the safest play is to always buy as cheap as I can. So, I saw Scenario, which is AMP, Counterparty, and BitCrystals, right? I saw, okay, these three markets, they haven't really taken off. So, AMP was like down here, right? It had taken off a little bit, right? It was already up. So I was definitely buying someone's bags at a premium. That's versus someone else who bought it down here. So it's probably up, 166%. But based on, Poloniex, I saw this as very modest, right? And, nobody knew back here that we were going to hit a huge bubble, right? Like we did. So you could have easily just bought down here, back here, and had it done nothing, go sideways for a year, right? But, once I saw these ridiculous moves on Poloniex, I said, okay, well, let me just fill my bags up with the things that haven't rocketed. And, if I'm patient, I give it time, I bet you it'll go through its cycles. It'll get its round. In this bull market, it seems like everything gets its round in Poloniex. And I also saw that it was still kind of range bound. It was still in the lower end of the range and hadn't broken out into the higher end of the range. So I sent out a trade alert and I talked about loading up some AMP, some counterparting, some bit crystals. So with AMP now we can see now it started ramping up. And it made higher lows. And I see people on Twitter, they're going on, oh, AMP dumped, AMP dumped, getting tick lock, chasing nothing moves, okay? Like in this bull market, if you're chasing nothing moves, you're doing it wrong, okay? So, so AMP went up here and I was like, that's nice, whatever, I'm not touching it. And it came all the way back down to my entry point and I looked at it and it's like, oh, look. Prior resistance turns support. That's nice. I'm just going to hold it. And then it made another move and then it pulled back. And it's like, okay, that's nice. And another move, it pulled back. That's nice. And it's just, it's bull flagging on the way up and it's making another move and it might pull back and whatever, right? Talk to me about taking profit on AMP when I see a big parabolic candle that breaks out of this range like this. Well, guess what? Scenario has a tech release coming up. I think at the end of the month, allegedly, if they meet their goal in a week or so, what could happen? Could we see this turn into a top polo market? I don't know. It's possible. Doesn't really matter if it does or doesn't. I'm already in some nice profit and I'm just going to ride it. Right? And if it does, if you start seeing this pushing over 10,000 Bitcoin in volume, then that's when we break out of this range and and likely see some nice large YOLO green parabolic spikes, right? But, we've got a predominance of green. And check this out, there's an obvious increase in volume that was not there before. This is the most volume that this coin has seen. Obviously, there's a lot of new money here, right? So I'm just being patient, giving it time, letting it do its thing, right? And it's that simple. And once it hits jaw-dropping levels and I'm like, wow, that's a nice chunk of change, then I start taking profit. That is my current modus operandi for this bubble or this bull market. I have no idea when the bubble is going to pop. I've been warning people about how to prepare for the bear trend, but I'm also getting out of the way of the bull trend as well and not trying to just pick tops willy-nilly, right? So nothing wrong with locking in profit along the way. Right? Selling into strength, taking hard profit if you're making life-changing amounts of money, diversify into other non-crypto related assets, or at least that's my plan. I can't give investment advice because I'm not a financial advisor, but that's my personal plan. I have been diversifying. I've probably diversified at least about 15 or 20% of my portfolio. But the thing is these markets are so hot, it keeps my crypto keeps replenishing. I take profit, it keeps replenishing, right? So far that's probably going to happen until the bubble pops. And then we go into bear mode and there's going to be a lot of nice volatility and it'll be a different action strategy. Now, this strategy probably won't work as hot in a really dead, low accumulation market, but, you can just buy things for long haul and then wait for them to ramp up. So that's AMP. So let me just go back to Quantum Resistance Ledger. All right, so this other new market I'm in as of today. All right. So here's the thing. I'm not in a rush, right? So even if I wake up tomorrow and the price is like down here, and I end up, minus 50 in the red. Well, I personally don't care, right? I'm aware of the risks with trading mid caps. I'm comfortable with those risks. I'm okay with that, right? When you're trading a mid cap that's a little bit illiquid, not as liquid as the top markets, then that's the risk you face. You might have to be in the red a bit. Guess what? I was in the red scenario minus 30% when I bought. and now I'm up over I'm up a double, right? Same with Counterparty, right? I was minus like 20%. Now I'm up 24% Bitcoin wise, and dollar wise even higher. I think anyways. So on and so forth. You know, there's basically one token that I think I'm in the red in right now, and it's Loon. But I also don't go all in or too heavy on any one market, you know. So maybe I'll put in like, you know, on a mid cap, maybe I'll put in like tops, you know, 1% type of thing. Sometimes 0.5% or whatever my portfolio, crypto portfolio, and that's it, right? And if I get a couple of duds in there, then so be it, right? I would rather I've bagged, like, because I buy low inherently, um generally things are in my favor for some upside because I'm a stickler about buying as cheap as I can, right? I've bought things before that looked like duds and then ended up being really big winners. Actually, ARK, this is a good example. Let's just show you ARK here. Oh, I'll give you first before I do it. I'll just show you my reasons. Okay, so this would have been my most ideal entry. This is usually when I like to get into projects. Get out of the way on price discovery. Never buy anything on price discovery because it's garbage, you know, stupid prices. And then it crashes. You wait till it crashes and kind of hits a floor a little bit of sideways green. And then you could either wait for the markup where it starts to turn green instead of red. Or maybe the first move up, you know, the depth, so on and so forth. I missed this, you know, because it's hard to be on top of every single new token that hits exchanges. There's new tokens hitting exchanges all the time. But, you know, there's a higher low here and looked like it made one wave. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another wave, right? So I just entered into QRL. I was going to buy it last night, but I didn't because, you know, the Bitcoin confirmation times and this and that and that. I said, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Then I woke up and it was already up. I was like, ah. So anyway, so then I had to wait for Bitcoin confirmation times, blah blah blah, and so I started to buy in through here on this dip here is essentially you know, when I bought. So not the best entry, and you know, I might have to be patient, and maybe I'll end up in the red a little bit if it pulls back, but that's fine. With this particular strategy, I'm okay with bag holding while the bubble is still hot. Obviously, when the bubble pops, then, you know, maybe I'd have to clean up my bags and you know, not bag hold. I'm not going to bag hold all these trinkets on the bear trend unless I'm just riding something that's already up an insane profit that I've already taken out tons of profit and risk capital on, type of thing, right? Much different strategy than, let's say, you know, catching a breakout trade on a liquid market, or margin trading, or scalping. Like, obviously I'd set mental stops and would cut my losses short, but on those types of strategies. So don't mix up the strategies. Don't say, oh, you know, well, you know, he's okay with bag holding minus 30% or whatever in this token, so I'll YOLO margin long Bitcoin, and if it goes down 30%, I'll just hold it, you know, because you'll just get wrecked and liquidated, right? So, you know, different strategy for different markets, right? So anyways, this could make a second wave up. This was one first wave. It could make a second wave up. It's an interesting project, so we'll see. And I'm in it for the patience game. I could hold it for months, and usually that's where you start to see some good pay dirt. But I'll just show you ARK. That was a good example of that was an interesting example of a market that I actually really started off in the red in. And this was something actually quite similar. I missed the really good entry. I mean, obviously, I'm so cheap that, you know, my entry would have been, I would have loved to have gotten in on an entry like all the way down here. Like I did Golem, right? I got in Golem like at the bottom. And it's like one of my biggest gainers right now, right? Ridiculous. It's still going up. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, so I think I bought it like right here. This is what happened. So I bought ARK. So I missed the big move, and then it came down and I saw it stabilized, and it looked like it was producing some support here. And so I bought here probably like around here, around this dip right there. And then all of a sudden it went down below my entry, and it's like, oh no, all is lost. I'm down like 25%, 26%, so basically what I did was I just sprinkled a little bit of apathy on it and said, meh, whatever. And that's it, right? Like I actually just don't care anymore, right? So, and I feel that that's the kind of attitude I need. Like I obviously care about making money and results, but I'm not afraid, right? I'm not afraid. Like C minus 30%, like the wrong way for me to have handled this is if I would have sold and freaked out and taken a 30% hit on what I put into it. Then it'd be a hard loss. Done. But I know these markets are dynamic. I know it made a wave. Okay, so I didn't nail the bottom, right? And it went a little bit lower. That's fine. And then it went up. Boom. And then I sold into strength. I think I sold half. I think I sold half. Yeah, I sold half into strength somewhere around here. And then it retraced, and I'm just riding the rest. And look, it's making a higher low, another wave, right? Which is very similar to, you see this prior all-time high. Not quite perfect exact, but you do see how it's made a higher low, close-ish to the prior resistance, the prior all-time high. So it has found support close to that area, right? Now it's bouncing. You can see the buyers are stepping in, right? And so I'm just riding the rest. I took some profit. I probably flipped it into something else, and there you go. And it's still riding it. See where this beast can take me, right? So that's just like another kind of recap of my mid-cap strategy. There's so many new projects and coins and whatever, right? And listen, at my core, I'm actually kind of fundamentally skeptical about most of these projects, but I'll trade them. I think there's a lot of like hype and vaporware and stuff, but it doesn't mean you can't make ridiculous amounts of money. And in the bear trend, I don't know if many of these will survive, but a lot of the hot coins of 2014 ended up falling into the gutter and going nowhere. And then all of a sudden, all those dead coins from 2014, a lot of those are starting to pump too with all this money. So it's really just all about market cycles and waves. But what I do know is that I don't know if I feel, confident in holding a lot of these as, let's say a long-term 10-year investor or something like that. Like it's not like I would plan on retiring off of these mid caps. I mean, maybe retiring off my well, I love trading, so I'm never going to retire from it. If you love what you're doing, there's no such thing as retiring. It's a game, right? Do you stop playing your favorite game or whatever, right? Because you get really good at it? No, you want to do it more, right? So I don't even know what that word means anymore, but anyways, I digress. But do I think that this is like something I'd hold to the age of 65 or whatever? I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe there'll be some future Bitcoins and Ethereums and some nice Rockstar coins that really hit the moon type of thing. And maybe 90 or 95% of it will just fall to garbage, right? And I don't know if I want to be holding all these crypto trinkets, right? And maybe blockchain will be very different in 20 years because technology evolves and changes a lot, right? So who the heck knows, right? It's kind of like it's kind of like investing in 8-track, like Betamax or whatever, and like, oh, this is the future. I've got all my shares in Betamax. Well, you better like sell those shares when they go parabolic and then the peak, because that company is going down the toilet, right? Or whatever, as the tech gets thrown out the window. Same with DVDs, same with whatever. So I don't know. I don't know how much of this is smoke and mirrors and hype. And I don't know how much of it's going to actually be like viable, like long-term investments, like next Bitcoin. I think we're in a bubble. I think a lot of it's probably going to end up in the gutter garbage. But I've been wrong before on certain things, and I'm inherently skeptical. I'm not very big on, drinking the Kool-Aid. I love the technology and the space and the free markets, but, there's like maybe a couple of projects that I really, really can get behind and believe in. And, probably projects that I at least have some kind of involvement with. I think those ones I can get behind just because I feel like those are a little bit more in my control, right? Okay. I digress. Let's look at Bitcoin. Let's look at the King Daddy of coins. All right, I'll take a peek at UBQ. So, okay, so we had a little higher lows, right? So far, so good with this long. So far, so good. Still holding. In fact, I would dare say that we've invalidated the head and shoulders, in my opinion. I mean, unless, for a couple of reasons. I mean, it could still, if it rolls over, it rolls over, right? If it rolls over, it rolls over. But check this out. You could see kind of like an inverse head and shoulders here, like a little one here. So this is kind of cool. But, as far as like the big head and shoulders that I was keeping my eyes on, it's looking less probable. It can still happen. Obviously, if some fundamental event like, Jihan Wu says, have some fork if you want fork or something like that, and then forks the network, or something crazy, then yeah, this market could dump, just like this. But, from a technical level, for this to have been like really, really strong, I mean, it could still be valid even with a higher low here, but for it to have been really strong head and shoulders, it would have retested this support area, right? And what started to make me feel really bullish, like we'd get some continuation, was this higher low, right? So that's very important, right? Just, and whether it's like perfect on the trend line or not, I mean, and on BitMEX, not so much. Bitstamp was a little bit more clean on the trend line, but you get a lot of these like little fake outs too, right? Sometimes it's not perfect. You get these tiny little wicks, but obviously buyer stepped in. Oh no, this was Bitfinex. Sorry. Let me just let me just clean this up here. There. Just my line. See, it's kind of a creative art here, right? There, fixed. I mean, these lines are dynamic, right? We're looking at market principles here, right? So don't get so religious and fanatical about, perfected lines. Right? Understand the mechanics and the concepts behind the markets is instead of like getting so fanatical about it. I mean, there's some things that obviously make a lot of sense. It's got to make at least 3 points of contact. That's a general rule for a trend line, right? And in this case, it's made multiple points. I mean, these markets are just so nice to look at, right? Now, we're still not out of the waters yet. Obviously, if this, for the bear side, if this rolled over and then we break this trend line, for me, this break of the trend line would be like, uh-oh, here comes the bear, right? That would be my definitely a line in the sand for me, right? I'd definitely start cleaning up some bags and doing all that kind of stuff, right? And that can still happen. I mean, we don't know, but I'm still holding my dip buy entry. Bought down here on this. I bought down here before it was a wick, maybe contributed to the buyer stepped in. We stepped in. Anyway, so but I'm not. I don't have enough hubris to think that I have any power to move the Bitcoin markets, right? I mean, it's a pretty big beast to move, right? There's hundreds of millions of dollars being traded. So, um, but check this out. You know, we did creep our head up above slightly. This is something else I found interesting. We slightly creeped our head up above this other shoulder right here, and we did make a higher low. We did pull back here a little bit, and we made a higher low. And you know, as long as we keep making those higher lows, it's pretty good. So if we could break through this area right here, so obviously we're seeing, you know, obviously like 3,000 is a big, yeah, we're the defenders of the trend. You know, bang your shields, folks. Sharpen those swords. Defend a trend with honor and valor. So, thanks for the cheap coins, Jihan. Anyways, and it was great, right? Because I got to hedge into cash, and it's not like I threw in new money into the market. I was just able to buy more Bitcoin with the money that I'd hedged into cash, just by watching the play-by-play on the breakdowns of these trend lines, right? So, you know, there was like multiple little trend lines that I had my eyes on, and so I just use those trend lines and do a play-by-play, right, for exiting, right, when I get a little confirmation. I didn't want to just sell at 3,000, even though we tagged a major fib extension area on the larger trend, just in case we just pushed up and went right to 4,000. Anyways, so, but obviously there's a lot of kind of resistance here, right? So if we break through this area, right, then we'll have confirmation. If we can break through this area, we'll have confirmation of this being invalidated, right? Then it probably wouldn't take long to hit the 3,000 area. If we retest the 3,000, obviously I wouldn't be surprised to, you know, how I would kind of see it happening. It's like maybe we go and we test the 3,000 area, and then, you know, there's always usually a little bit of a pullback when you test resistance. So then maybe it pulls back and then establishes support at this prior resistance area, and then, you know, breaks out type of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like this unfold if we do that. Or maybe it just says, to heck with all that noise, and it just goes boom and just starts to go on a mega rally, and we go to 4,000 or whatever. And but this would definitely be kind of like a textbook setup. And the thing I love about the Bitcoin markets in particular, because not only is it a liquid market, it's a free market. It's a market without circuit breakers, right? It's a market that runs 24/7. It's a market that doesn't have one central exchange determining the price. Many exchanges, many different ways to buy and sell, right? Means it's a pure market. Bitcoin is one of the purest markets. So you're going to get amazing textbook technical analysis plays. Like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience trading stocks, so I don't know if they're this clean and pretty, but I mean, I've just seen some pretty amazing things off of the Bitcoin charts. Anyways, it never ceases to amaze me, the art and perfection of it sometimes, right? In the market behavior. Yeah, Mark said the market of the people. Absolutely, right? Anyway, so that's Bitcoin. Not much that I can say to that, except that I'm just riding. I mean, I think my entry is probably like somewhere down there, and I'm probably up like 25. Yeah, I'm up 25%, something like that, dollar wise. And that wasn't new money I bought in. So cheap coins was relative. That was just money I'd hedged into cash as we were breaking down. Plans for August 1st? It depends. It really depends how the SegWit 2X unfolds. You know, I hear there's still a little bit of controversy. Some developers aren't fully on board. I'm definitely taking more hard profit off of the table. For sure, right? So definitely doing that. I'll take a quick peek at ETH and then we'll look at some other markets. And ETC. Okay, we'll do ETC. What about all these alts? Well, I probably want to, like, when I suspect that the bubble's going to pop, I probably want to scale back all my positions by at least 50%. You know, I definitely don't want I want at least half my portfolio being fully hedged is my plan, right? ETH, you're an interesting thing with ETH, right? So we had some network congestion, and you know, some people were perhaps considering shorting in the room. I held off on it because I don't like shorting when we're testing a trend line. I've learned from experience that often when you test trend lines in these markets, the markets bounce, right? And you might have even gotten faked out a tiny little bit here. But where I would have liked to have short, like what would have been, and so far, I mean, this trend is still intact, right? This thing's a beast. I mean, there's nothing I can do with it. I mean, I maybe have like, you know, 1% of my original ETH holdings left, just investment wise. And I obviously need gas to pay for tokens and stuff, right? So, you know, but it's not really anything that I'm really proud of. I should have held on to more of my because I did load up big time in my bags during accumulation when it was at the $10 range, right? But whatever, right? I didn't know it was gonna bubble this hard, right? Hindsight's 2020. Nobody knew that it was gonna bubble this hard. So that's so that's that. But I flipped it into, the thing is though, is like I also took that profit and then I flipped it into ETC when it was at $1.50 and now it's at $21. So I don't know. Maybe if I did the math, I might have made more money doing that. It's possible, but who knows? I still would have liked to have kept some more Ethereum though. So. All right, so basically, if this trend line holds up, then it's good, right? It's still intact. Now, if it breaks down for a short entry, here's what I suspect would happen. This is what a short entry would look like. So it breaks down. You don't have to necessarily chase it, right? So let's, if it did break down, it would probably retest these areas over here. Right? And then you'd probably have a bounce. And the bounce would likely test the, you know, prior support trend line. And that would be, for me, that would be a perfect short entry. That's where I would like to short. Right? And make this big, ugly looking head and shoulders type of thing. So that's what I would look at for a reversal pattern, something like that. But, you know, as long as this line holds, I'm not just going to short willy-nilly. Now, it is funny, though. I did tweet something. I was so tempted to short, but I would have just been... I was so tempted to short up here, and I probably should have. Anyways, coulda, shoulda, would have. But I had tweeted, I said... Because right when Ethereum was up here, Twitter was just going nuts. Everyone's like, oh, man. Some people were celebrating. Some people were upset, angry. Some people are scared. Basically, you know, Ethereum's going to overtake Bitcoin's market dominance. You know, it's like this big event. And it was all the way up here. And I saw it hit this, like, you know, round number 15 or whatever. And I said to myself, and I didn't say it to myself. I said to Twitter. And I actually mentioned it in the room as well. I said, you know, every bubble needs some kind of major, epic, pinnacle event. Some like max hype euphoria event that gets emotions like throttled, right? And Ethereum overtaking, they're calling it the flippening, and so far it looks like the floppening, but it might still produce a higher low and make another move up, and it might still happen. Maybe it'll happen for like an hour or something like that, or whatever. Maybe it happens for longer, but and maybe it'll happen permanently. Who knows, right? You never know. Things change. But I think when Bitcoin actually scales, I think this scaling debate and drama has actually put the brakes on the Bitcoin markets. I mean, Bitcoin has lost a lot of its market dominance. It's only at 37% market dominance or something like that, right? I think if it would have scaled, and if we had Lightning Network and SegWit and all this stuff on Bitcoin right now, I think we'd already be at like $5,000 coins. I really do. And I don't think the market dominance would be so low. I think what would have happened was it would have broken out the all-time high. Altcoins would have crapped their diapers, and Bitcoin would have just, scooped the table and ran with it with the bull, right? But people don't have as much confidence because of scaling drama. But if and when that gets resolved and that's behind us, and we can finally put away all the melodramatic, crypto nerd trolling and people crying and throwing rocks and stones at each other. I'm staying completely out of that stuff. I'm so tired of the Bitcoin drama that I don't even care anymore. I'm just like, you guys just figure this stuff out, right? I'm just going to trade it and whatever. I used to have opinions on it and stuff, but now I'm just like, whatever. It's gone way too theatrical for me to even care anymore. And yeah, ETH is having its own scaling dramas as well right now, right? These massive ICOs and one, I think it was like a combination. Miners trying to, a mining pool that was participating in an ICO that happened a couple of days ago was, trying to rig things in its own favor using its hashing power so that it can get in and participate. Fees just kept on getting up. All these transactions got backlogged. It basically just congested the network for 2 days, and there you go, right? You've got too many people. So you're starting to see some kind of strange things happening with this hype, right? Here's the thing, right? Ethereum might be the best tech in the world for all we know. I don't know yet. We still need more proof of concept with real world applications. It's still very new. Don't forget that this is all experimental stuff, right? But aside from that, too much hype is never a good thing. Too much hype. It's like, think of the markets like the pendulum. The markets are like the universe. It's like the yin and yang, right? The more exaggerated things get to one side, there has to be counterforce. There's always counterforce to the universe. There's always counterforce to the markets, right? We even have old maxims. Hubris comes before the fall, right? Or when you reach your bottom, that's when you can finally dig your way out and climb to the top or whatever, right? These kind of things. But you experience that and see that time and time and time again in life, in the universe, and in the markets, even in nature. So anytime you have things that are just so extreme, like look at the dot-com bubble, okay? I mean, the dot-com bubble, it was so extreme. Like people were selling pet store websites for $1 billion from venture capitalists. Like pure, utter insanity. Website developers were charging like $80,000 to build you a website, okay? Completely overvalued. Absolute insanity. Does that mean that when the bubble popped, we stopped using the internet? Does that mean that there weren't, multi-billion-dollar tech companies that came out of that? Does that mean that the biggest companies in the world today aren't actually internet companies like Amazon and eBay and things like that? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that it had way too much hype too soon when it was new. Things were way too insanely valued, and the bubble had to pop and crash, and we had a big tech crash, and we had a lot of paper millionaires, and then they all lost their shirts, and it all vaporized. Whoever didn't take profit out basically didn't make anything, type of thing. They got to be paper millionaires for a year or whatever until it all popped. And then after 2000 or whatever, when things stabilized, then we start to get into the social media. Then we start to get into the Twitters and the Facebooks and all this kind of stuff. And these big tech companies, and it became more stabilized, right? The technology, and it's still growing. Obviously, the internet's still growing. Blockchain and what we're doing right now is another version of the internet. It's another wave of internet hype. So we're like in a new .com bubble right now, right? And when it goes mainstream, it'll probably like plateau a bit and go more stable until it hits the S curve, and we might see another huge rise and bubble. And who knows, maybe we're in it right now. Maybe this isn't just like a normal bubble. Maybe for all we know, we're actually hitting mainstream adoption right now, for all we know. But so that's Ethereum. I don't want to rant too much. Ethereum Classic, same thing. I'm just holding, still riding, made a higher low. Boom. That's it. Not much else that I can really do with this. I'm still riding my position, so just being patient. I'd like to see much higher levels. UBQ, very, very amazing returns on that. Got in between $1 to $2, and it's probably over 20 now. So very good returns, over 2,000% returns. All right, let's look at UBQ. Yeah, looks like UBQ could be making another move up, another push up. There could definitely be a breakout point here. So made a higher low. And the flip side to look at if this rolls over is if it falls short and then rolls over and creates like a head and shoulders, then that would probably be the end of the bull trend. But it's still a mid cap, so it could still have some growth potential. And MGO and RLC. So these are two requests in the room. I have to research the fundamentals on these a little bit more. So I never buy a coin unless I fully research the fundamentals first, just to make sure that it's it doesn't look like complete garbage. Some people are just technical traders. Some people only, invest on fundamentals. I do both. I say, why limit myself, right? Why limit myself? Why prevent myself from using all the tools that are available to my disposal? One sec. Okay, Liqui. All right, so MGO on Liqui. Looks interesting. I guess it's been going up because of I guess it's a mid cap. It's been going up because of Btrex. The Btrex ad. I would probably, for myself, if I wanted some, I would probably just wait. I'll give it some research. But if it's just getting added to Btrex, I'd wait till after it crashes a little bit. Oh, RLC. Yes, that's right. RLC is that GNT competitor and MGO's gaming token. Okay. Yeah, okay. I remember RLC now. So that's basically, I'm not going to buy it now at this level with the hype. It doesn't mean it can't go up more, but I'm just not going to do it. So I'll just wait till if I wanted some. I don't think I will get some per se. I don't know if I want another gaming token. I'm still holding some data bits. This looks interesting. Let me just look at the market cap. Okay, I'm just gonna look at the market cap, RLC. Is this an ETH-based token by chance? Can you store it on a Trezor? Okay, 55 million in market cap. Okay. 55 million in market cap. This to me looks like an interesting technical buy, an interesting enough project. So I think this might be an interesting buy. All right, so that's it for now in today's video.